So JD Vance wants all of us to believe that he was attacked by a bunch of pro-Ukrainian protesters who somehow, for some reason, chased his 3-year-old child. Because people care about JD Vance's family. JD Vance goes on Twitter to say this lie. Vance says, today while walking my 3-year-old daughter, a group of Slava Ukraini protesters followed us around and shouted as my daughter grew increasingly anxious and scared. I decided to speak with the protesters and hope that I could trade a few minutes of conversation for them leaving my toddler alone. Nearly all of them agreed. It was mostly a respectful conversation, but if you're chasing a 3-year-old as part of a political protest, you're a shit person. Are we now supposed to believe that people actually give a damn about JD Vance's 3-year-old? Is that what JD Vance wants me, you, and the rest of non-MAGA America to believe? That grown adults are concerned with JD Vance's 3-year-old? JD Vance, in an attempt to completely remove himself from any and all accountability concerning this administration's betrayal of Ukraine, betrayal of Europe, uses his 3-year-old child as a human shield. That's what he's doing. He's trying to use his child as a human shield. Well, I was with my child, so you can't ask me about, you can't shout at me about, you can't demand an answer for why me and the president of the United States, unfortunately Donald Trump, have abandoned our allies and left Ukraine to die. JD Vance doesn't want to have to answer to that. He doesn't want to have to answer to making America less secure. He doesn't want to have to answer to making America unsafe. He wants to be able to traipse around wherever, whenever, however he wants without ever having to answer, without ever having to have any accountability to what he's doing to this country and to the American people. That's what he wants to be able to do. Now, if we actually watch the video, none of what JD Vance is trying to illustrate here actually happens in reality.
With you, and I'm trying to be respectful. I have condemned the invasion, but I've also condemned the perpetual war. That is the policy of the administration. And I've talked to you guys now for about 5 minutes. And what changed? Ma'am, now that's a different question. I'm happy. Would you like me to talk about how I've changed my view on Donald Trump from 10 years ago?
Cell phone video shows the moment Vice President JD Vance was approached by pro-Ukraine protesters in Cincinnati, Ohio.
People are dying.
What I told the gentleman earlier is that we think it's in the best interest of our country, and frankly in the best interest of the Ukrainians for the war to stop.
CNN affiliate.
Wow. Look at the hordes. Look at the Slava Ukraini hordes ripping JD Vance and his child to shreds. This is the most disgusting. Like, JD Vance is truly just a rodent. He's a rat. And honestly, this nation, I don't know if we're going to recover from this in the next 60 to 70 years. I really don't. JD Vance knows exactly what he's doing here. He portrays these people as some sort of violent mob. Little does he realize the recording of it is available because, of course, people record everything now. So JD Vance takes to Twitter to try to portray these people as violent, bloodthirsty savages looking to rip him to shreds in the name of Slava Ukraini. And then when you actually watch the video, it's a bunch of like middle-aged, like elderly, like liberals demanding an answer for why he's abandoning the Ukrainian people. And of course, he gives a typical nonsensical and childish response of, I think it's in the best interest of the United States and the Ukrainians for Ukraine to surrender. Because that's what they mean when they say stop the forever war. Because Vladimir Putin, despite invading multiple nation states and never having left office, he's not the one who's endangering planet Earth. When Dmitry Medvedev launches his 60th nuclear threat of the, I don't know, of the decade, it's not indicative of Russia being unwilling to come to terms for peace. It's not indicative of Russia being an aggressive nation state, more focused with conquest and warfare than actual development. That's not indicative of who they are and what they're about and their threat to planet Earth. Oh no, it's Zelensky and the Ukrainians who need to stop fighting in the name of peace. Choose peace, end the forever wars. Vladimir Putin's never left office, keeps sending Russians to die all over the world. He's not the one who's behind the forever wars. He's not the one who's failing to put Russia first. It's Joseph Robinette Biden, Volodymyr Zelensky and the Europeans, who seem to be incapable of putting peace first. JD Vance wants to sit there and ruin America's foreign policy, cut off all of our relationships with our allies. Donald Trump wants to move American troops from Germany to Hungary. They want to alienate Europe and align our country with a broke-ass, dysfunctional, third-world shithole like Russia. And that makes America safer, and you think you can hide behind your 3-year-old child as a means by which to escape accountability for what you're doing to this country. That's what you think you can do? Absolutely not. Why should Americans care about the first family or the second family? Why should we? You know, there was a time when Republican and Democratic presidents used to be professional. They used to at least try to work within the confines of keeping America safe and maintaining America's greatness. But instead, what we get is a bunch of oligarchs who seem to believe that the concerns of the peasants are just that, concerns of peasants. You know, miscellaneous, trifling, unimportant concerns that should never trouble the enjoyment and the happiness of the elite. As Elon Musk slashes everyone's jobs, as Donald Trump sits there and tells us, you know, a recession is coming, but it'll get better. As JD Vance goes all over the world antagonizing our allies with a much better GDP and much better military than Russia, we, the American people, are supposed to avoid any opportunity to hold them accountable in public because a 3-year-old who no one cares about might be nearby. It's absolutely ridiculous. I condemn any and all violence against someone when their children are around, and period in general. I condemn any and all violence. However, this idea of trying to portray American citizens as violently attacking you because you don't want to actually be held accountable for what you're doing to the Ukrainian people is cowardly. But it's on brand for someone like you who ambushed a man who can barely speak fluent English and tried to portray him as a villain. That press conference from hell will be an embarrassment that hangs over this nation for decades to come, and JD Vance does not want to have anything to do with it. These people want to be able to pillage and pilfer and destroy this country and scoff and are aghast at any attempt to hold them accountable, whether it's over Twitter or in person. I can't believe you would ever question me. Like, they just can't believe you would ever pull up and say, JD, all that hoe-ass shit you got going on in Europe, what's going on with that? All the disrespect you've been launching toward the Europeans, what's going on with that? JD Vance is scum, and he thinks he can hide behind his family and try to portray these protesters as violent, but whole time the video proved otherwise. Know your enemy, because these people are your enemy. They're my enemy. They're your enemy. They're the enemy of the founding fathers. They are the enemy of every single American who's ever stood for liberty, justice, equality, all of these things. JD Vance is an enemy to. That man is the enemy of all of us. And many MAGA supporters who still suck Trump's meat and still ride this MAGA carousel, all of these Trump supporters who are still loyal, in due time you will also realize JD Vance is your enemy. In due time you will also realize Elon Musk is your enemy. But like I said, in due time. Sitting there saying Slava Ukraini protesters pulled up on me and my dog. Nigga, stop lying. Why you always lying? All this fucking lying. It's unreal. But this is what you're dealing with.